This week I'll be answering questions about resting steak, gluten-free crackers, and more. This is Questions of the Week. Okay, question 1 comes from Mike Wetzel. He says, okay, when I cook the steak, let it rest, why does blood/juices still come out? Is it still normal? Doesn't really bother me, and I cook it to medium. This was on the Everything I Know About Steak post last Friday. So, Mike, when you cook a steak and you let it rest, there's always going to be juices that come out of it as it's resting. Completely normal. What the resting is doing is preventing juices from coming out when you cut into it. And again, there's always going to be some amount, but you want to minimize that so that all that juice stays in the steak when you bite into it, and then you have all that flavor, and it's really nice and juicy. So, if you're talking about liquid just coming out of the steak as it's resting, perfectly normal. If you're talking about liquid coming out when you're cutting into the steak, it's probably because you haven't let it rest long enough. So usually for me, for a steak that's an inch thick, inch and a half thick, I'll let it rest for 5 to 10 minutes. Closer to 10, preferably. Wrap it in foil, make sure it doesn't get cold, but let it rest. And that's going to prevent all that juice and blood from pouring out when you cut into it, and it's going to keep the steak nice and flavorful and juicy. Question 2, this comes from Danielle Martel, and she said, this was on the smoked salmon and wasabi sesame cracker things. I'll post a picture right there. She says, I'm so making these. I'm not a fan of wasabi though. Could you use any other spicy mayo? Sriracha maybe. So yes, you could absolutely use sriracha mayo in those. The only thing is, I guess it wouldn't matter because it kind of tastes like sushi, if I'm being honest, because those crackers, which I'll talk about in a minute, they have almost like a seaweedy flavor. So it kind of, when you mix it all together, it kind of just tastes like sushi. So that's why I went with wasabi. But you could easily do sriracha mayo. But I wouldn't do like a Tabasco mayo or something like that. Like I wouldn't use a North American hot sauce. But any kind of Asian spice, like even sambal, you could use. Ruby asks, same post, I'm assuming the crackers are gluten-free? I guess that was a question. Yes. So obviously I don't eat wheat, so the crackers in that post are gluten-free. They are Mary's, I don't know what they're called, Mary's sesame crackers or something. They're really good most of the time. Sometimes you get a box that isn't the best. There's quite a few really good gluten-free crackers out there now. Breton or Dare makes a really good gluten-free cracker. Actually, a couple different varieties. So yeah, the crackers were gluten-free. And this last question comes from my sister Cassie. You can see her there. And she asked, I don't have it written down, but she asked me today, what is the best way to mail baked goods for the holidays? Depends on what you're mailing. So, if you're mailing cookies, you want to wrap them tightly. Ideally, put them in something rigid like cardboard or something like that that's going to prevent them from flopping around and from breaking. If it's a cake, make sure it's wrapped very tightly. Obviously, don't ice it. The icing's not going to last. But like a fruit cake, and if you have a vacuum sealer, vacuum seal your fruit cake, or if you're doing like a banana loaf or something like that, vacuum seal it. But for a softer cake, you're probably not going to mail a softer cake, let's be honest. It's probably not going to make it. But anything that's going to go bad, obviously, put in a cooler or something like that, because you don't want to get your baked goods to your relatives or your family or whatever and have them get sick because they ate something off. So generally only send things that are going to last, like cookies will last for a while. Fruitcake lasts forever. Yeah, that's what I would say. Especially if you're mailing cookies, just make sure that they're wrapped very tightly and ideally wrapped in some kind of cardboard that's going to prevent them from banging around too much. Anyway, that's it. I'm Chef Ben. This is Questions of the Week. These have been the questions that I've answered this week. If you have a question that you would like me to answer, you can ask it down there in the comments section of this video, or you can hit me up on any of my other social medias. Facebook, I forgot my Facebook, facebook.com/Ben Kelly Cooks, Instagram.com/Chef Ben Kelly, and Twitter.com/Chef Ben Kelly. If you'd like to book me for a cooking class or a dinner, you can check out chefbenkelly.com, or you can send me a message and I'll get back to you. And that is it. I hope that you all have a fantastic weekend. And I'll be back to no, won't be back tomorrow. I'll be back on Monday with more stuff. I used to do that much. I'll be back on Monday. I'll see you later.